Luffy vs. Doflamingo final battle and history. How do you want it to go? Will Doflamingo die at the end of the arc or at the end of the series? Is Doflamingo Celestial Dragon? Round 1 - Doffy vs. Luffy alone, where Doffy will dominate Luffy. Round 2 Doffy vs. Law plus Luffy, where Law plus Luffy would dominate Doffy until Doffy shows his real power. Round 3 / final, Law would be down due to low stamina. Luffy will throw everything he has got against Doffy, but Doffy shows no sign of losing. Then suddenly Law uses room, bringing Doffy under his control / distracting him. Luffy would then use final attack and defeat Doffy. I'd like for Luffy to have G4 already, but not using it until the very end of the battle as an ending, like he's saying to Doffy, "I'm not supposed to use this new gear this fast in the NW, but it seems I'm going to anyway. Be careful, you're not going to keep up," as a gear that boosts his power so damn high to a new different level. Just like when him against Blue No. And as someone said, Oda must have a very good imagination for it, cause a combination between G2 plus G3 is not a new gear, it's only a combination Luffy can use normally in the battle, and it doesn't need to be called a new gear. So in a recent chapter raised a couple of questions on Doflamingo's past and his status in the world of One Piece. He's by far one of the most complicated cases yet. He's a Shichibukai, a king, and a former celestial dragons, claiming to be related to one of the founding families of the world government. However, he's still a pirate despite his birthright and doesn't exactly have the same sway the other celestial dragons do. What caused him to be named a former celestial dragon? Why is he labeled a young master by his crew? Why did he become a pirate at all? Here's a theory I made literally on the spur of the moment. Read through it and tell me what you think. The celestial dragons and the founding of the world government, Holy Land, Mary Joy and Doflamingo's crime, Doflamingo mentioning his family life, and the situation with his parents. His mother died when he was only 8, and he killed his own father at the age of 10. Mary Joy, the homeland of the celestial dragons, has been referred to as the Holy Land repeatedly by any character who mentions it. Holy places such as churches, temples, cathedrals, and monasteries prohibit violence of any kind, as they often defy the tenets of the lifestyle and faith of those who reside in such places. Doflamingo killed his own father, and in the present storyline is labeled as a former celestial dragon. Perhaps the reason for Doflamingo's status is because he killed his father in Mary Joy, a so-called Holy Land where violence against the celestial dragons is strictly prohibited. Shalaya states that Shylock's father had never raised a hand against him. I know this is meant to show Shylock's lack of discipline and his spoiled nature, but could it also be because violence from one celestial dragon towards another is prohibited? Even more so in the so-called Holy Land Mary Joy. So Doflamingo was cast out of Mary Joy for his crime, killing in the Holy Land. Doflamingo the pirate, and his former status. Question of the day would be, how can Doflamingo still use his celestial dragon connections? He clearly did so when Law attempted to force his Shichibukai resignation, but if he killed his father, a celestial dragon, and was exiled from Mary Joy, then how can he still wield power? Why didn't the celestial dragons have him killed? After all, simply answering back a celestial dragon is punishable by death. Killing one should result in something truly horrific. Instead, Doffy lives a fairly cushy life as king of his ancestral homeland. My theory is that Doflamingo is the last of the Don Quixote line. In the most recent chapter he mentioned the death of his parents, and said he had no one else. No siblings or any other blood relation to call family. So Doflamingo must be an only child, and quite possibly the last of the Don Quixote family. The other celestial dragons didn't kill him because he is the last of one of the founding families of the world government, and thus killing him would forever extinguish that line. What motivated Doflamingo's patricide? Doflamingo mentions his mother dying at 10, and then states he killed his father 2 years later. Given the weight and time, it must have been a premeditated murder. Sherlock stride up to an engaged woman, and declare her his next wife, like property. He even goes as far as to shoot the poor woman's fiancé, and none can stop the man. Sherlock even makes mention of having multiple wives. So perhaps Doflamingo was of similar circumstances. Son to a mother who was brought to marry a joy against her will, and then later killed when her husband got bored of her. He's killed his father in vengeance, after planning it out, and since he shed blood and Mary Joy, he was exiled. New family. I think probably the most unique feature of Doflamingo is that unlike so many villains in the series thus far, Doflamingo has care and affection for his subordinates. We hear of him protecting Baby 5 from her personality flaws by killing 8 of her fiancés and destroying their towns of residence for good measure. He calls Virgo and thanks him for his years of service and hard work, and apologizes to Monet for having her sacrifice herself for him. He even pauses and seems angered when Law takes Jorah as a hostage. He smothers Diamante with praise and compliments, and is highly protective of Pika's strangely sensitive feelings regarding his voice. His crew reciprocate in turn. They have undying loyalty for him. Doflamingo acknowledges how far his family is willing to go for him. Jorah says she would gladly sacrifice herself for him. The first genuine smile seen by Virgo was his acknowledgement of his captain's praise. So clearly this little family is extremely close. Doflamingo mentions that they've been with him for a long time. Virgo in particular had been with him the longest. This is the slave pricing list we see at the human auction house. It includes the prices of devil fruit users and people of various races, such as the long-legged tribe and giants. Diamante has distinctive characteristics of those of the long-legged tribe. Boa Hancock and her younger sisters were all slaves as young girls. Baby 5 is quite young, evidenced by her appearance 10 years ago in the assault on Dressrosa. Here we see Jean Bart, a very large man being used as a slave. Pika and Treble are of a similar size as well. The Doflamingo's current crew were perhaps slaves on Mary Joy, owned by the Don Quixote family, namely Doflamingo's father. Treble has a noticeable shackle on his leg, and the entire crew refers to Doflamingo as Rakasama, meaning young master. Doflamingo's father would simply be master. As seen in the Sherlock slides, there's often a suited man who accompanies the celestial dragons. An aide, who is seemingly above slaves. Doflamingo mentions Virgo has been with him longest, so perhaps Virgo was his aide when he was a young celestial dragon? When Doflamingo killed his father and left Mary Joy, he took his slaves with him. As the last member of the Don Quixote family they belonged to him technically. This would explain why he says they've suffered through the joys and sorrows of his life, and they appear so diverse. In summary, Doflamingo is related to the celestial dragons through his father. After his mother's death, Doflamingo killed his father 2 years later and planned vengeance. Due to being the last of one of the most influential and important families, Doflamingo was allowed to live, but due to shedding blood and Mary Joy he was exiled, taking his slaves with him. Doflamingo and his slaves grew close, and he later seized his ancestral homeland alongside his new family. That is all for this video. Be sure to rate, comment and subscribe. Don't forget to leave your video suggestions regarding any type of series. Yeah, have a nice day. This Video was made by Truck101 YouTube channel.